To think that in practically the same breath, Clay Entertainment not only announced the official release of potentially one of the biggest updates Don't Starve Together has ever seen, but also had time to tell us that they're working on the next 2 updates to boot. One of those being a character refresh. And while it is indeed true that literally the only thing we have to go off of is this image right here, I still believe we can begin to scrap together a really solid and productive conversation surrounding what this rework might be. For you see, the obvious choices are WX-78 or Winona. The problem with the latter is that Winona kinda already got her rework. In fact, she was the first rework ever. So in the end, we're left with one final question. If this is indeed the WX rework on the horizon, what exactly does that mean for our automaton friend? And while we will be introducing and speculating on some of the comments you guys have left over these last few weeks, and potentially even some mod reworks of the guy, for right now, let's just talk about what we do have from Clay themselves. This drone thing. Is it an all-in-one attack drone? Is it simply a spotlight drone? Are there gonna be attack drones? Are there gonna be worker drones? We have no idea. But let's say the big 3 are indeed going to be present. A worker drone to help us gather resources. Great. A spotlight having follower light drone that simply flies around giving us a new way to navigate the darkness sounds ridiculous, but considering what these last few updates have been and what we've gotten with them, i.e. the Eye of the Storm stuff, light is becoming more and more of our friend. I wouldn't put it past this being a straight up light giving drone. And finally, and potentially the most out there, believe it or not, an attack drone. This is the one that I am not convinced about at all, because what is it going to fire? Is it going to have bullets? Is it going to be shooting resources? Yeah, I don't buy that we're going to get attack drones, honestly. But no matter what, we're getting some flying machines in a couple weeks, folks, and that in and of itself sounds amazing. But please let me know your own thoughts on this down below, and since I don't really want to keep you guys here long today, I'm just going to go right into my second topic of discussion, Wagstaff's influence on the WX rework. As we know, there is a pretty solid connection between Wagstaff and WX, leading many of us to theorize that WX was built by Wagstaff. You can take WX-78's examination of Wagstaff as just like you. And if you've ever taken the time to examine any of Wagstaff's tools as WX-78, you can clearly see that our robot friend isn't really friendly with the guy who potentially built him. And if you need any more proof of WX not trusting this son of a gun, and you know what, I don't blame ya, there's just a straight up quote of him saying, "Don't flippin' trust him." And trust me folks, there's a lot more. Across the board, mind you. It's not just WX examining things. Lots of what Wagstaff says himself can lead us to believe that he knows WX very, very personally, and heck, maybe even program some of himself into the robots. All of that to say, everybody, not only will Wagstaff play a huge role in the potential upgrades of WX here, as we kind of have to suspend some disbelief with these reworks, as these guys have been in the constant for so long. They kind of gain new powers, but they kind of had them this whole time. It's a whole thing. But also, the lore, everyone. I know I say this almost every time, especially nowadays, but WX-78's rework animation is probably going to be one of the most important ones we have ever seen. I would not bet against the idea that Wagstaff is going to be very prominent in it, and we are going to see the very construction of WX. But before we wrap up the day with discussing your comments on the potential WX rework, I just want to mention some of the mods that are out there, like the Reliable WX mod here, and the Stranger Newer Powers one, just to name a select couple out of a lot. And the reason for this is, while yes, they are distinct, a lot of the times these mods bring up the very same questions. Should WX be neutral to clockworks? Should he start with gears? Should he be able to use gears to make his own clockworks? And should he get an overcharge from different sources? 8 times out of 10, that is usually what these mods are addressing. The thing is, though, plenty of recent conversations have brought up the fact of chassis upgrades. Just take, for example, these select few comments right here, pulled from an absolute plethora of the same ever since the roadmap for this year. They're all the same. Chassis upgrades. Instead of just eating gears to upgrade stats, what if we took things a bit further and got really interesting with it? What if you create and put on a chassis that makes it to where you're immune to wetness, but in doing so, you get rid of your ability to be overcharged? Maybe there's a chassis just to increase how much damage you can take. Makes sense. And maybe we can even pull from other comments about people asking about what if we touched the lightning rod to get a little bit of charge that way? What if we were able to have clockwork companions? What if we just straight up made new robot companions? And what if there was a chassis for all those different things? Or maybe there was a chassis for a couple things and then just straight up changes were made for the other things, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, we already have a robot survivor who can literally eat gears to upgrade himself. So to think that he's not gonna have some new system of upgrading himself is kind of crazy. Then again, Clay has surprised us in the past, and we have absolutely no idea what those drones are yet still. We don't know if his interaction with clockworks are going to change. And heck, people still forget to this day that any survivor can have friendly clockwork companions. I absolutely agree with the notion that they're going to give us a new way to overcharge ourselves, because not every WX-78 player either plays with people or, better yet, plays with the wicker bottom. I hate to break it to you, but they might pull a Wolfgang and balance out WX's stats by kind of eliminating the eating gears for high stats nonsense. And to continue on that line, the guy barely has any negatives. Barely any. They all have to do with water. So they'll probably not only up those a little bit to make them a little more challenging, I imagine they're going to toss in a couple more disadvantages. Then again, the past couple reworks didn't really, so there's that. But at the end of the day, I'm really only expecting a couple things. Those drones, which are probably going to be big enough to kind of fly over the rest of it, no pun intended. They're probably going to nerf his overcharge a little bit, especially if they give us another way to get it. We might not be immune to freezing anymore. Maybe the speed boost is reduced a little bit, because let's face it, 50% speed boost is a lot. They'll give us new ways to upgrade, mostly because I've seen a lot of people suggest that, and Clay, especially this year, is taking all the feedback to heart. And of course, Wagstaff is going to play a massive role, not only in this rework, but beyond. The only problem is, this year's not going to see a lot of content updates, so we won't really get to see what that means until next year. But folks, that will do it for me. I'm kind of dying here. I haven't been feeling well the last couple days. I just wanted to get something nice, sweet, and short out to you so you can start speculating yourselves. And heck, we won't have to wait long. Clay said, we're going to get information out to you in the next couple weeks. So when we get that, we'll be right here to truly continue the speculation. Only it's going to be fueled by Clay's official words, not just mine. But thank you, folks, for everything. Please continue to enjoy the March Quality of Life update, because it's flipping massive. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.